Start your morning with insights and drive. It's the business sit down where ideas come alive. From boardrooms to breakthroughs, we cover it all. Of FS Business School, standing tall. Sit down, tune in, let the wisdom flow. Real talk, big moves, and the knowledge to grow. On your way to work, we're paving the way. The business sit down will set a blaze.
In this episode, we delve into the complexities of achieving an ideal work-life balance, with a focus on the unique challenges faced by women. Drawing from the insights of Professor Brownhilder Neneh, an accomplished researcher and author of Craft Your Win, a woman's guide to creating ideal work life, we explore how women can navigate the pressures of career, family, and personal fulfillment, crafting the ideal work life, challenges, strategies, and perspectives. Tune in for the practical strategies, personal anecdotes, and the fresh perspective on creating a life that works for you.
Professor, thank you very, very much for making the time to sit with us. Among other things, today we'll be discussing your book, the Craft Your Win. In your book, you talk about the work-life balance of women specifically. What does the ideal work-life balance look like for a woman?
Thank you so much, Philip, for having me. And I think before I talk about the ideal work-life balance for women, I think it's important firstly to just think about what is work-life balance and why the need for it. And firstly, you know that the work-life balance is the ability to be able to manage your work and your non-work life in a way that you get support to achieve your overall well-being and also your personal fulfillment. And so why has there been an imbalance? Over the last few years, you see that many women have now moved on to have careers out of their home. And that means that, okay, because of that, a couple of things have happened. There are many families, the husband and wife, they now have full-time jobs. Some of them are also single parents. And some of the people working and also have jobs that are found in different locations or different time zones. And that has created some type of imbalance. And hence there's a need now to craft your ideal balance. And so when it comes to a woman, my book established that work-life balance is not a one-size-fits-all strategy and a journey, but nor is it also static. But there are a few things that you need to do if you want to craft your ideal, because what will work for you, for example, Philip, will not work for me. And the few things that my book puts out is the fact that firstly, you need to think about what is important to you, which is your role ceilings. And you also have to think about your boundary ties. Are you someone that separates your work from your family, or do you integrate your work? And even when you think about integrating your work with your family, do you integrate more of your work with family, or your family with your work? And then there's also the whole aspects of your life context that tell someone about your views of life, your perspective in life. And when you look at your life context, you could think about the family front. And the family front now speaks about are you married with kids? Do you have children? Do you have dependents? All of that. And then you also have the part of the economic context. Are you a student? Do you work full-time? Is it part-time? And then the whole social front that you could also lean onto. And then I think one critical thing that my book also latches on is the aspect of transitions in your life, which is the changes. So we all go through different phases in our life, perhaps from being a single mother to being a mom with kids, or being married without kids, and even having kids. So all of that. And at each of those different stages in your life, you require different types of support, or your needs change. So in crafting that balance, you have to think about that family context of yours. And then more importantly, again, you have your resources. You need to think about, what do I have with me at hand? At what time do I have it available? And then how do I communicate it to the people that I'm requiring the help from? It could either be from the family front or from the work front. So in principles, I think and all this book talks about crafting your ideal win, which means it's something that is unique to you, because what will work for you will not work for me. But if you look at all the factors I've talked about, the moment you try and incorporate them into your life, that could give you a sense of achieving your own ideal win.
Now, Prof, being our deputy dean, being very involved in management and stuff, how did your work-life balance change from being a regular academic who just focused on what academics focus versus now being our deputy dean and all the extra pressure and work-life responsibilities, especially on the faculty side? How did this differ, the transition from just a regular academic to a more leader role?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It did change a lot because it was not just only about being an academic to being a deputy dean, but also being a mom of one kid with two kids, and now also now moving from being a grade one and the other one being in also aftercare. So that also changed. But I think for me, I've often had to go back and look at what is important to me, and which is my family, of course, and my work. And I've had to think about my boundary ties. How do I juggle both of them? And I'm very cognizant of my family. But more importantly, I've had to look at the resources I have at my disposal, because that is what has made a difference for me. And with my resources, I mean, I know that if I've got a meeting that ends at 5, I need to find someone to pick up my daughter. I know that I cannot be able to handle all the childcare and household responsibilities, which means I've had to get in someone, stay in to help with some of the work.
Yeah.
And at the academic front, it's not just trying to be deputy dean, but also I'm still a researcher also at heart. So I've had to also prioritize the things to say, if today I block out my time, if today I want to focus on my research, then I focus on it. But if it's about getting the other work done, I get it. So prioritizing my needs and what I need at this chapter in my life is one of the critical things for me, in ensuring that I achieve my own ideal balance, but also communicating to my spouse about what is it my week looks like and what is it I'll need from him. And the same goes for my helper, who also helps me at home.
It sounds like you're saying communication is key.
Definitely, communication is very key, because often for many women, we think we can do it all and we can make it work all the times. But sometimes you realize that you shouldn't die in silence. You should reach out to people to say, I'm not okay, I'm struggling, I need this help. And then not just saying I'm struggling, but tell them exactly what you're struggling with, what type of help you will need, and when you will need them, and how you will need it. And that is something that was evident in my book, because for many of the women I interviewed or sampled over 6 months daily diary study, and also I came back after 1 year. Often they would struggle, and then I asked, what resources did you have? My mom lives with me in Bloemfontein. I also got my brother. Then I asked, did you tell your mom what you need? She comes home to help me, but did you tell her exactly what you want her to do, at what time you want her to do it? And then also, did you communicate to your spouse on your week and what you need help with? So I think I'm someone who shies away from always trying to tell people my needs, but I had to learn that if I don't communicate it, then people wouldn't know what I'm struggling with. The assumption is you look strong, you look fine, everything is okay. But the moment I reach out and I say I'm struggling, then I tend to get the support, exactly what I need.
Prof, do you think social expectations and social norms in general, or cultural norms in general, play a huge part in what the work-life balance for a woman would look like?
Definitely. I think in many societies, cultures, and even households, there's still the stereotype and the traditional norms where we think that a woman is supposed to still shoulder a very large part of the family and childcare responsibilities. And if that woman happens to be in that home, and couple the fact that she has a full-time job, that now creates what we call the gender-related problems, because she now sits with, how do I juggle both of them? So definitely it does happen, but again, we have to acknowledge that there are a lot of men now who have gone out of their ways to really make it easy for many women. And then we also have a lot of work policies that are also trying to make it easy for women as well.
Prof, in your vast research and experience and interactions with people, do you think there's a difference in the work-life balance that would be, let's say, for a South African woman versus a woman, let's say, in Botswana, versus a woman in Egypt, versus a woman, let's say, in the USA? Do you think the work-life balance, or the vision of what the work-life balance looks like, may differ from country to country for women? Or do you think that is a mostly standardized vision of what people think the work-life balance for a woman would look like?
When you look at my book, the lady who wrote the foreword, she's now the dean of Studies at the Fulda University in Germany. And when she wrote that forward, and she said she lives many kilometers away, and when she read this book, she looked at the narrative from the women. She felt like, wow, that related to me as well. So, because the struggle is sometimes the same for women, regardless of where you sit. So, but again, it's about the support structures you have in place that really make it easy for you, and also you as a person. What is it that is important to you, and what is your priority? And about spending your time better. That makes a big difference. So for many women across the globe, I'll tell you that the issue of balance is something that they struggle with. But I think the uniqueness in terms of their context, about if you're married with kids or not, have dependents, I think that either makes it easy or difficult, depending on their life context.
Now, talking about the support structures, immediately my brain goes to workplace policies, etc. Now, how would how do workplace policies like flexible work, parental leave, etc., contribute or hinder work-life balance for women specifically?
Yeah, I think all of those workplace policies, they have a place to play. They could either break or make work-life balance. But in my view, those policies alone do not suffice to give the woman an ideal balance. And I'll perhaps give some context to it. Yeah, there's flexibility. My daughter leaves school at 1. I can easily pick her up. But if I do pick her up and then I don't have a helper at home, who looks after her? If I cannot afford perhaps childcare or a homework school, it means she has to come to the office with me. And that will make sure that will become difficult for me to finish my work for the day. So it means it's one hand to have the work policies. It's another one for the woman to really take stock of her own context, because that context still plays a role, and the resources that she has at her disposal. That is going to make a big difference in terms of how she crafts her ideal.
Now, our conversation now is making me think of the overall, where there's always that sense that a woman needs to do it all. And I'm just curious, in your expectation, how would most women navigate the pressure to be able to do it all and still have a healthy work-life balance and personal fulfillment?
I think that's a very interesting question. I think often we feel like we don't have a choice, we must do it all. But and I look at the older version of me now, and even with the women that I spoke with the part of my studies, you get to a point to realize that you can't do it all. But it's about priority. And when I talk about priority, it means if you have little toddlers, even if you fix the house 5 times in a day, they still mess it up. But you get to a point where you realize that it's okay for that mess to happen. But if the priority for the day was not to clean 5 times, then I let it be. If it was to focus on the laundry, then I get the laundry done, and then tomorrow I can come with it. So they get to a point where you get comfortable with, I'm happy with this mess for now. But if you try to get the laundry done, try to get the house clean, then you're burnout. So women have to now learn to say that I cannot do it all at once, but I can do it at different intervals or different seasons in my life. But at that season in my life, what is important to me? And how do I ensure that I prioritize that one to ensure that I get it really, really done? Because at the end, I get fulfillment.
Now, I've got a bit of a sideline question for you. In your book, you refer to life is a constant balance. There's always something unplanned happening. I'm sure all the mothers can relate to this. Why is it important to constant of change in your life?
Thank you so much for that question. The chapter on transition, I think it's a very interesting chapter. Things change every day. The fact that today you're employed, tomorrow you could be unemployed. You have 1 kid, you might have 2. You may be unmarried, you're married. And if you're not very cognizant of the things that are happening around with you, then you would not know what to change and adjust. And again, I often believe that every new chapter of your life requires a different version of you, how you adapt to that. You can, some of the things you could take into the new chapter, but definitely there's quite some things you need to change. And so that's why I feel that you need to always be conscious of the changes and look at what worked in the past and how can I integrate them. But more importantly, what more new things do I need to add on there to ensure that I craft my ideal way?
Sorry. Now, the other thing I'd like to know, I mean, as I said, Prof, I think you're extremely busy, especially with the role you fulfill in the faculty. What is an unexpected way you found to maintain work-life balance that other people listening or watching may find unusual or unconventional?
Philip, I've learned to focus on what I call the strength-based approach, which means I'll often look at what I'm very good at and I put my efforts on, and then I've also learned to outsource. Because if I think to do it all now, I wouldn't get it done. So it's, for me, my strength is what am I really good at, what, and then what is it that I outsource. So at this point in time, the issues of child care and household responsibilities that I outsource, but the cooking part, I love it and I'm good at it, so I still keep it. And so those are the ways I do. So I'll advise a woman, look at what is it you're very good at. Then it's because then it wouldn't take you that much of your time. Yeah. Because you enjoy doing it. And the ones you know you struggle with, you can get someone to do it for you. And it's okay to get help.
Now, while we're thinking about earlier conversations now, let's say just for a moment, we imagine that you can wave a magic wand and you can either change policies, do something, change the world to give women the perfect work-life balance, or to give them the necessary resources to get a work-life balance. What would you do? Let's say money isn't an option, time isn't an option, you can change, you can do the ideal change. What would you say would be a good change?
That's an interesting one. I think I'll think about flexibility for all. Work flexibility is important, but also resource-oriented work culture. Which means that sometimes you don't have to be there in person to get the work done. As long as you can be accountable for, I'm not there, but I get my work done. I think that is going to help a lot of women, and including myself as well. I think that will make a big difference.
So you're saying focus more on outputs rather than input.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I actually also think it can help. Okay, let's say we had a time machine and we could put a Prof Neneh 2025 Prof Neneh in a time machine and send it back to young academic Prof Neneh, and you could give yourself advice. What would you give yourself advice in order to help that Prof Neneh navigate the challenges of a work-life balance?
I'll tell that younger version of me is the fact that life has different seasons and chapters. So be very cognizant of the one that you are in, and decide on the few things that you think are important for you at that season, and ensure that you achieve them. Because as a season change, it requires different things. And again, I'll also remind that young version of me to say there is no perfect, ideal work-life balance. And so you need to also realize that it's going to be constantly changing. So for today, work-life balance would mean I'm able to get home on time and I have dinner with my kids. For tomorrow, it would be I traveled, for example. They could have dinner on their own. But you need to ensure that you find the ideals and the important things that you like. And then you try and see that for everything I do I prioritize them? And so that is the thing I'll tell the younger version of myself to say. Don't try to do everything at once. Really be very intentional about the few things you've picked, what is important to you, and in that season, try to give it your all.
My very last question, Prof, is writing a book about female work-life balance, I'm assuming brought a bit of controversy or maybe a bit of other people telling you, no, you got this wrong, you got that right. My question is what inspired you to sit down and say, listen, I'm going to craft what I see as a book to help other females find work-life balance?
Okay, I interviewed for head of department when my daughter was just 3 months old, and at that point I had a few things to juggle. It was that little girl to look after, it was my husband, it was also being in a new position of about to start as HOD, it was also my own career that I had to ensure that it doesn't struggle. And so that was always trying to see, but how are people who have these positions, how do they navigate through life? What is their day-to-day looking like? And then when COVID hit, because I also do research on women, I've been doing a lot of things on work-life balance, family support and everything. And for all the women I spoke to, we all struggled because, you know, it's easier to leave the house and you get work done. But when you're stuck in the house with the kids and the household responsibilities, everything is on you. So it felt like it was just too much. So for every woman I spoke to, it became the kids. And I realized the researcher in me said, it was time to get ethical clearance and try to do research. So I sampled a whole lot of women and I for 6 months. We met once a week and we talked about what was the issues they faced and what is it that they did to address some of the issues they faced. And 1 year after, I also went back to those women, because every week I'll learn from another woman and tell them, try this. The other woman told me she did this, and just try it. And it became like therapy for each of us, because I also learned from them, they learned from me. They also learned some of the things I said, which I heard from the other women. And 1 year after I came, and some of the people, a lot have changed in their lives. Like the one I met said, yeah, I am pregnant, or I was pregnant, I had a kid. Now I had a full-time job. I decided to say I went to start my own business. And I realized, you know what, because I published from those, then I said, but it was time to really take this, not just leave it in the academic space, but how do you convert all the knowledge and wisdom you've gotten from this 1 year, 6 months, speaking to these women? How do you really turn it into a non-academic book, appealing to women to say, I'm not saying this is everything you need. Hence I said it's not a one-size-fits-all. No, is it static? But this is a beauty box where if you try the few things I'm saying, you could craft what I call your ideal. So it's not something that what will work for you will work for me. No, what specifically will work for you. So I was able to come up with that. So and I believe that this is really going to help many women, be it academic and also those who are not in academic, across different walks of life. So my research has always been on women entrepreneurs, which is still very much. But in this book, I also decided to sample working women. So it was good to have gotten perspective from all the women of the different walks of life, race, age groups, just to see what it is. So I think this is something that you could really read and see yourself, because I think what's interesting in the book is also the extracts that I give on what the women see. You read some of it and you're like, okay, wow, this is me in this version. Or even if you're not at that stage yet, if you read it, then you can say, okay, the day I'm in this season like this woman was, this is perhaps some of the things I can try and to see if it helps me craft my own ideal win. So you're learning to do something that is unique to you and not to everyone.
Well, if this conversation made me think of an English proverb that says the proof is in the pudding. Now, if we go by that, I'm assuming that you probably have it all figured out. Because I mean, Prof, you're sitting in the deputy dean position, so I'm assuming your work-life balance, you've got it figured out, or are you on a continuous journey of improvement when it comes to that?
I think it's a continuous journey every single season. This is just another season of the so many seasons in my life. So it's a continuous one. Like, for example, my daughter started grade 1 this year. And with grade 1, you know, it comes with homework. And classes begin at 7:30. So when she was in grade R, you had to be there at 8. You could leave the house at 7:30. But with grade 1 now meant I had to leave the house at 6:50 if I want to be on time in school. So that also required a lot of changes and transitions. It means pre-planning at night, getting everything done, also going at night to just check her book to see how was the homework, was it done? And also now who's going to pick her up. I had to now get her someone in the homework school to pick her up, and then I take her from there. So it's not, I wouldn't sit at this point in time and tell you that, Philip, I have it all figured out, no. But I am learning every day to craft what I call my own ideal wins. And what will be the ideal today will not be tomorrow. Because I also have a son, so next year he starts school to maybe grade double not. So it's going to be juggling those two people, dropping them off and picking them. So every new year brings in a different season and chapter in my life. So I need to be very cognizant of the changes and I have to adapt to it. So do I have it figured out? No, but am I trying to make it work day by day? Yes, I am trying to.
Thank you very much for your time, Prof. I know that you left a few faculty meetings, or you scheduled a few things around to be here. I appreciate a lot to be able to sit and talk to you. And I really hope either people watching the YouTube or watching on the podcast or listening on the podcast will really, really find the value in your book. We will also link to your book on the show notes in the YouTube as well as in the podcast. And I really hope the people listening and watching takes the time to go buy the book and read it. Because as I've said, I personally think, as I say, the proof is the pudding. And the fact that you're sitting at the position you are after writing a book like this, I personally think that at least there's something to learn, because you've shown that clearly there is something that can be done. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope really we have you on this couch again.
Thank you so much, Philip, for having me, and thank you.
Start your morning with insights and drive. It's the business sit down.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, share this with friends and family, and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Cover it all of FS Business School, standing tall.